The Indiana Hoosiers have a chance to really make some noise in the non-conference slate and become Battle for Atlantis champion.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. It is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen each and every day. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as playoffs wind down and really wrap up. The sports stop sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Well, we know the non-conference schedule, and we know how it may not be the strongest schedule that we'll see across college basketball. I'll have more on that on tomorrow's episode. But one thing that's going to highlight the non-conference play and the non-conference slate for Indiana basketball is their participation in the Battle for Atlantis, a tournament that happens every year. It's been going on for over a decade. They take a massive ballroom and they turn it into a basketball gym, and they invite huge names across college basketball. It was a great tournament last year, saw Villanova take home the title, and this year, your Indiana Hoosiers are competing in the Battle for Atlantis. And you know what? I think they can win. I know what I said last week. I know I told some of you and told Indiana fans, hey, you shouldn't expect to win it. That's a lot to ask. I know. But as I started thinking about it, I said, well, wait, why can't Indiana win? Why can't we go down there over Thanksgiving and win the Battle for Atlantis? And as I started to take a deeper dive into all of this, I think we can absolutely win the Battle for Atlantis, because I think some people are going to look at this tournament and they're going to look at this and say, oh, there's a lot of big names. There's a lot of good teams here. Indiana just won't be ready that early. Yeah. Hogwash. I think we will be ready. I think we'll be the best team, and I absolutely believe that we can win the Battle for Atlantis. To remind you on who those teams are that are in the Battle for Atlantis, of course, your Indiana Hoosiers, Arizona, Gonzaga, Louisville, Oklahoma, Providence, West Virginia, and Davidson. So, of course, some big name teams, big-time programs, teams that have gone on and made huge runs in the NCAA tournament from their respective conferences, right? Arizona, Gonzaga, you're talking about teams that have made runs to the Final Four. Louisville is historically a good basketball program. As of late, I don't know what in the world's happening there in the Bluegrass State. Oklahoma, a new member of the SEC. Providence out of the Big East, one of my favorite non-Big Ten basketball conferences. West Virginia, can always expect a tough fight from them. And then Davidson, a team that nobody ever wants to mess with because you just never know what they're going to be. And, you start looking at this and it's so easy to get scared away, to be kind of hesitant when looking at these teams because there's a lot of big name logos, right? It's like, oh, Indiana, they're not going to be ready. Gonzaga, Arizona, come on, they're going to win it. Nobody's giving Indiana a chance. Well, not so fast is what I say. I think with our roster, between the transfers, the freshmen, and the returnees, I think that Indiana will have the best roster in Atlantis, and I think they're going to go down there and they're going to win the tournament. And there's going to be a lot of reasons why. My main reason is because of that roster. I think a lot of things are going to just come together for this team, but ultimately, I feel that in these early season tournaments, right, it's November, you've gone through some of your weaker games, I guess you could say, and you look at this tournament, this will be the first real litmus test. And we'll talk about that later on in the show today. But I just think we're going to be the better team. I really do. And, if you go down there and get hot and take care of business, you win your games, you're in and out, and you'll become Battle for Atlantis champions. You're not going to have to play all of these teams, which I think is important to note here as well. And I'm going to start with the offense. I just think the offense can carry this team early, even if it's not exactly where it needs to be or in sync or in the flow that we want it to be, or even that Mike Woodson wants it to be in January, February, and of course in March when you need to be playing your best basketball. Just look at the offensive talent. You've got shooters, you have playmakers, you have scorers, you have rebounders, you have passers, you have facilitators, you have guys on the bench. And I think that depth is something that we're not talking about enough with this Indiana basketball team, where your starters of Miles Rice, Cannon Carlisle, and then Mackenzie Mbako, Malik Renew, and Umar Ballo. That's what you have. That's your starting five. Whether you think that's the truth or not, that's what I believe, and I think that's going to happen. Look at what's behind that. Trey Galloway coming off the bench. Luke Goody, who came in. Like, you have players, Bryson Tucker coming in as a freshman. You've got depth on this team. And in a tournament like this, all it takes is for in one game, a star player on a big-time team to get in foul trouble. And they are in trouble for that game, okay? This is still a tournament. Now, you don't go down there and just one and done and lose and go home. You've got the 5th-round games and the 4th-round games, and you have a bunch of different breakoffs to where you get a set amount of games per the Battle for Atlantis tournament. But if you want to actually make a run and try to win it all, yeah, you got to get hot and you got to take down some really good teams. And I think the depth of our Hoosiers team is going to be a really strong suit for this program this year. And think about this too, in a big time tournament setting, you're playing back-to-back-to-back days. It's on November 27th, 28th, and 29th. And so you're going to play 3 games however you want. I mean, whether you win or lose, you're going to play across those 3 days. So that's a lot of basketball early on in the season. Now, for these guys, a lot of them have played AAU and travel ball and even the high levels of high school ball where, yeah, 3 games in 3 days, not crazy. But this is college ball, and this is Louisville and West Virginia and Indiana and Gonzaga. Like, you're not playing against each other in practice. This isn't an exhibition game inside of Assembly Hall. This is national television against the best of the best. And on day 3, you will be tired. It's the first month of the season. It's inevitable that you'll be tired. I think the depth is going to help this squad for Indiana. And I look at the offensive side in particular. Guys like Mackenzie Mbako get hot. You can't stop that. Malik Renew is going to be coming in hot off of the season he had a year ago and wanting to be more and hungry for more. And I think that's going to push this Indiana team to win the battle for Atlantis. They absolutely can. And I'll predict right now that they will. I think they do win the battle for Atlantis. And I'm excited to watch it coming up in November, but I have more to say. We got to talk about the defense. We got to talk about some of these other teams, plus what this means for Indiana in November and why it's so important to be a part of one of these types of tournaments early on in the season. All that's coming up next here on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. Look, I love sports. I love them so much that I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer and fewer games. And the sports just aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime that I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost of a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers. Appreciate you being here, making this your first listen each and every day. Thank you to all of the everydayers, those of you that are, of course, here every single day. Whether you're on the video version, whether you're on the audio version, doesn't matter to me. I just appreciate you being here. But if you are on the audio version, be sure you follow us, turn on notifications so you never miss a new episode. Those of you watching me right now on YouTube, be sure you click on our Locked On Hoosiers logo, hit the subscribe button, become a member of our wonderful community here at Locked On Hoosiers. Well, we've been talking about the battle for Atlantis and the fact that, look, it's plain and simple. Indiana can absolutely go and win the battle for Atlantis in November. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And sure, I've changed my mind a little bit, but that's the good thing about it is I can change my mind if I want to, and so can you. And I look at this from a couple of different ways because I talked about the offense and I talked about how that depth is going to help a team in a short span tournament. We'll talk about how this team could be looking come March in a little bit and as we get throughout the season and things like that. But in this early season type of tournament, right, your depth is going to help you in that day 2 and day 3. And I said offensively with Mackenzie and Baco and your new guards, and now you've got Umar Ballo, right? All the new toys to play with. Plus, you're still old school guys. I guess guys that have been there for a whopping 1 year of Mackenzie and Baco or Malik Renew. And you still got Trey Galloway and all the depth on that team offensively, right? Look at it from a defensive side, a defensive perspective. This team is going to be one of the best defensive teams in all the Big Ten, an expanded Big Ten now. And I think you could see this team be one of the best defensive squads in the entire country because they've got it all. They've got elite athletic guards that can move with the ball, shuffle their feet, and not get blown by. You've got guys in the middle like Mackenzie and Baco who can hold their own, and it does have to get better defensively this year. There's no doubt about it. But if he plays to his size, then everything will be fine. And I think he can hold his own against most other guys that play the 3. And then look at what you have down low. You've got Malik Renew. If he stays out of foul trouble, then yeah, he'll be good to go. And I think Malik Renew can absolutely run with any 4 in America. And then Umar Ballo, who's going to be your 7-footer down low. Again, you'd lose one 7-footer and you replace him with another. Now, Umar Ballo is a little bit bigger than Khalil Ware was, especially size, and got a little bit more meat on those bones. The one thing we've heard about Umar Ballo, though, is he's tended to be, and this is from his former ride, okay, this is from other fans that watched him play, he tended to be a little on the softer side. Now, if he overcomes that, we're going to be fine. And guess what? This is Big Ten basketball. You have to be tough. You got to be strong, or you won't survive. And while he won't be playing in the Big Ten just yet, when we get to the battle for Atlantis, he's going to see some dudes from his old ride at Arizona. He's going to see dudes at Gonzaga in West Virginia and Louisville. They're going to have some guys that can match up with him. And it basically comes down to eat or be eaten in terms of what the defense is going to do this year. And I think you just got some smart players on the roster. I think a Malik Renew knows what he's doing and knows how to defend and defend well as long as he can stay out of foul trouble. And I think it comes down to the guards. I really do. Because look back to last year. Look back at a year ago with what you were using in terms of your guards on defense. It was Gabe Cupps. It was Xavier Johnson, who was never 100% healthy. It was Anthony Leal and Trey Galloway, who, look, I love them all in their own right, in their own way, shape, and form, but that's not going to get it done a ton offensively. We've talked about that, but I don't think we talked enough defensively, just how lacking we were as a team and a squad here in Bloomington in terms of defending other guards who would just go right around us. And then, bam, we're automatically playing 5-on-4. And we just weren't a good 5-on-4 team. Most teams aren't good playing outnumbered. And man, so many of those guards last year would just carve us up and throw it for alley-oops and kick it out for open dunks or open threes because guess what? Our defense would collapse on the ball handler like they're supposed to, and it leaves guys wide open. And so many teams a year ago killed us from downtown. We were one of the worst three-point defensive teams in college basketball. So just think about when Miles Rice and Cannon Carlisle can just keep guards in front of them and you make a team earn those 2 or 3 points. They're going to make tough shots. Sure. They're going to make shots that you just have you scratching your head and you move on and you live your life. But you've got to make them earn those shots. And so many times a year ago, it was just easy basket after easy basket after easy basket. I don't think that's the case anymore. I really, really don't. I believe that this Indiana team is going to be more in shape. They're going to be more physical. They're going to be more athletic and just a better defensive squad, which will allow them to compete in a tournament like this in the battle for Atlantis. Because let me tell you, a team like Providence, they're going to bang you around inside all day long, and they're going to hit you with elbows and shoulders and knees when you're not looking. You've got to be able to take that. And if Indiana can do that, they'll be just fine. And I go back to this field of teams that are in the battle for Atlantis, and I looked at the ESPN preseason top 25 again. I know we've discussed it, but I went back and looked. Out of the teams that are here, all right, 2, 4, 6, and 8, there's 8 total teams in the battle for Atlantis. Only 3 of them are ranked in the top 25, which is still decent, but it's not overly crazy, okay? You've got Indiana, us, at the bottom at 18, bottom of the 3 that are ranked, okay? We're a preseason top 25 team. We're at 18. Then you have Arizona at 9, and you have Gonzaga at 5. Now, this is preseason rankings. Does it mean a whole lot? Well, you tell me. I don't think so, but you tell me, okay? That's good. That's a good group of teams on top of the bigger names like, I guess, other big names like West Virginia, like Oklahoma, like a Louisville, who in Providence, who aren't getting any love and may or may not be worth anything. We're going to find out real early in November, but I'm saying that it's manageable. I'm saying that it's doable for us in this tournament. It's not just stacked and loaded with the Dukes and Carolinas and Kansases. Like, yeah, there's good teams, but it's nothing we can't overcome. It's nothing that we can't do. And what I'm going to get to in the next segment, think about if you do win it. Think about if we go in here and we win this tournament. You're starting to talk and look at a non-conference schedule, which we'll have a full episode on tomorrow, as very, very winnable. And you're really starting to grab the attention of a lot of teams around the country and a lot of other teams in the Big Ten. And if you go and win a big tournament like this and what that means for recruiting, oh my goodness, it's so important for Indiana. And I think we can. I think we can win the battle for Atlantis on our offense, our defense, our depth, and the fact that the tournament is good, but it ain't great. And I think we have a chance to be the best team in this tournament and go down and get a big win, a couple of big wins in late November. Well, coming up on Locked On Hoosiers, I'll continue to tell you why we can and will win the battle for Atlantis and why this is such an important thing for us to do and why tournaments like this in November in this non-conference slate are just so important. We'll have that for you coming up on our final segment on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is the authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets. They're all-in pricing. When you toggle this feature, it shows the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout, and their views from your seat. You can get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, no matter what the venue is. You can see your seat, you'll see what's around you, and of course, you'll see what's in front of you. It's the exact view. I promise you, I give you my personal guarantee. I've used it numerous times, and I've always been satisfied with my Game Time experiences. Take the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Final segment here on today's show. Happy Monday. Appreciate you being with us on this Locked On Hoosiers episode. Audio listeners, video watchers, wherever you are, however you're doing, it doesn't matter to me. I just appreciate you being here, okay? So thank you so much for that. This battle for Atlantis, if you can't tell, it's got me pumped. It's got me excited. And I really start to feel the draw to the basketball season when you look at this tournament and you just start breaking it down. Again, tomorrow's episode, we have a full non-conference breakdown and some predictions in there for that as well. But man, it's just the opportunity for this Indiana team and how early in the season that it is to make a statement. I think that's the biggest thing here is you can go down and have a chance to beat the preseason number 5 team or the preseason number 9 team, or you just never know what a Providence or an Oklahoma is going to do this season. And if you can get a win over some teams like that, think about how that can build your tournament resume, something we talked about a lot last year and we talk about every year in college basketball, because that's what the non-conference slate's about. It's about figuring out who you are, figuring out your rotations, and just deciding whether you're going to be a good team or not. Like, you're not sitting in the locker room saying, man, we're just a bad team, but that's what you use these games for. I call it the litmus test, right? That's what you're doing, is seeing where you are. And sure, you've got some games leading up to this tournament that you're probably going to win, and you've got some games after this tournament that you're probably going to win. And then you get into conference play, and that's where you are in the meat of your schedule, and you really start to climb the rankings and get your tournament resume wins and things like that. But this is where you just really, really figure out, okay, we're good in this area, but we're bad in this area. Or I think we have potential in this area, and we really need to work on this. Like, you see what I'm saying here? That's what Indiana's going to have this chance to do. And for a team and a program that just, let's be honest, they just fanned out last year, a program that didn't get any respect a year ago because they didn't really earn. We didn't earn anything last year. We didn't do anything noteworthy last year. We have a chance to come out and really prove ourselves. Think about what the country saw us do in non-conference play. Yeah, we ran with Kansas, and we probably should have won that game, but guess what? We didn't. We also went to Atlanta and played in the Holiday Hoops Giving and got embarrassed by an Auburn team that ended up losing to Yale in the first round of the NCAA tournament. Like, that's what people remember about this Indiana squad early on last season in non-conference play. They don't care. Okay, they didn't care, and they saw that Indiana couldn't win the bigger games. Well, it's time to redeem that. It's time to bounce back and prove that, yes, we can, because this year's team and this year's roster, it's just that much better, man. It really is that much better. And whether you go 3-0 or not, okay, whether you go undefeated and you win the title, that's a huge deal, but it's not everything. And you have to go down here and get a couple of key wins. Don't go over, okay? Don't go down here and lose them all. And I'd really prefer you win more than just one game. Get something out of it. Get a win or two, whether you beat a Louisville or Providence or whatever, okay? You just don't know what the season and how it's going to play out, but you at least give yourself a chance to be in the mix at the end of it because you have those wins early on. Personally, I don't think you should look back in March when you're looking at the schedule and trying to determine who gets in and who's not. A game in November, in my opinion, shouldn't count, but guess what? It does. And so you play the game, you got to play it how it's written. And so that's what Indiana's going to do here. And it's such a good opportunity to bond with your team outside of the basketball floor too. Think about all the events and all the team bonding and all the trips and all the meals and all the traveling that you get to do while you're playing in these tournaments. You have Atlantis, you've got Maui, you have Vegas. Like, there's so many of these. And I think that's part of this that really goes untalked about a lot of times, is just how close a team can get on these types of trips, because, man, this is flashing back to AAU days for these guys, like traveling with a team, staying in the hotels, right? Staying up late, doing whatever, and then getting up and rolling into the gym and trying to beat a team that day. And then you go hang out the rest of the day and do your thing. You're in a different place. Like, you just have the opportunity to get better as a team on and off the basketball floor. So if the Hoosiers can do that, if we have the ability to get better as a team mentally, physically, and emotionally, then yeah, I think we're going to have a lot of fun. I think it'll mean something, and I think you'll see it carry over in games later into December and all the way through conference play. Now, if we go down there and play bad and don't do well and have horrible attitudes, then yeah, you're going to see that negatively reflect on this team and negatively impact us as the season goes on. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think there's too much leadership. There's too many high IQ guys to let that happen. Too many level-headed dudes on this team. And I think it's going to be a wonderful opportunity. If you have the chance to go, do it. I won't be able to as far as I know right now. But if you have the chance, I recommend that you go. I think that'll be a lot of fun. I'm excited about the battle for Atlantis, November 27th, 28th, 29th, over that Thanksgiving holiday. Indiana in the battle for Atlantis with Arizona, Davidson, Gonzaga, Louisville, Oklahoma, Providence, and West Virginia. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. I appreciate you as always. I thank you for getting your week started with me. If you're on audio, as I've said, follow, turn on notifications, whatever you got to do to not miss another episode of this show. Okay, I want you to be here every day. I want this to be a part of your routine and your rotation and to never miss out. Same of those for you, or I guess, yeah, same for those of you. How about that? On YouTube as well. Be sure you like our video, comment down below, hit our logo, subscribe to the channel. That way it'll notify your phone every time we post a new episode, which here at the Locked On Podcast Network is every single day. Until tomorrow, Hoosier fans, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.